privilege to join them. Baseball gives every American boy a chance to excel, not just to be as good as someone else, but to be better than someone else. This is the nature of man and the name of the game, and I've always been a very lucky guy to have worn a baseball uniform, to have struck out or to hit a tape measure home run. And I hope that someday the names of Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson in some way can be added as a symbol for the great Negro players that are not here only because they were not given a chance. Now, I know Casey Stengel feels the same way, and I'm awfully glad to be with him on his big day. I also know I'll lose a dear friend if I don't stop talking, as I know I'm eating into his time. And that is unforgivable. So in closing, I'm grateful, and I know how lucky I was to have been born in America and had a chance to play the game I loved, the greatest game of them all, baseball.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Kuhn, league presidents, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I feel a great sense of humility, gratitude, and appreciation for this day and for what it means to me and my family. I'm extremely proud to be joining a group of men who performed on the baseball field, epitomize the highest and the best in professional athletics. I'm pleased to be joining them in the company of Travis Jackson, Happy Chandler, and Frank Robertson, some of baseball's greats. I also feel especially proud to be standing here where some years ago, Jackie Robinson and Roy Campanella proved the way and made it possible for Frank and me and for other blacks hopeful in baseball. They proved to the world that a man's ability is limited only by his lack of opportunity.
We're talking baseball before, here we are talking baseball. Hey, we got Gonzo's here, and he's wearing a football shirt. And on the telephone is people that remember the baseball show, and Mr. Baseball is Peter Stilla. Peter, why don't you introduce yourself to the Ward 13 audience for those that, you know, like myself, who have no memory because of things outside of our control.
Yeah, this is Peter Stilla. I met Hopwood during our California days, and was a fairly regular guest on the baseball show with the our late friend Mr. Weeks, and yeah, glad to be back talking baseball again. Opening day is in 15 days, so
okay,
I'm ready.
What is the first game? Is it the Yankees and the Nationals?
Yeah, I think there's like actually on that first day, 23rd, yeah, just two games, Yanks, Nats, and I think the other one is Giants, Dodgers, and then after that, the rest of the schedule starts with the rest of the team.
Well, let's, you know, when I was doing some research on baseball, I saw that the ex-presidents tipped their hat to the Negro League, so I thought that'd be a good theme to start out with. The Negro Leagues, which, of course, there were, well, for people that don't know, Fleetwood Walker was in the major leagues, him and his brother, but it was Cap Anson, right, that refused to play him. There was another African-American player on the team, and that was the color bar. You know, after black people had been in the sport from the beginning, and, you know, and faced all sorts of indignities, they were finally banned from baseball. I think it's 1887, so that's 60 years, and not till 1947 was baseball integrated. And, yeah, you and I were talking...
Yeah, that's 60 years even, huh?
Yeah, 60... Well, no, it was 60 years, and that was 73 years ago. My uncles had actually seen Don Newcomb and Campy, the great Roy Campanella, 3-time MVP, play in Nashville, which was B baseball. And it's amazing when in January 1947, before they integrated baseball, of the 13 owners in the National League, only Branch Rickey voted for it.
I got a question.
Yeah.
After Jackie Robinson made the debut, what
47.
was the period? What was the gap between the next one?
That was Larry Doby, right?
Larry Doby came up 6 weeks later in the American
6 weeks.
League.
Okay.
And he was an MVP.
It's actually a long time, though. 6 weeks to stand on a hill by yourself as Jackie.
Wow, they were.
That's 6 weeks is a long time.
They were alone. The sport was integrated very, very slowly.
From what I remember,
Very
he wasn't.
slowly, yeah.
Jackie Robinson wasn't. He was great, but
Oh,
he
he
wasn't
great.
the cream of the crop, right? There were better than him that could have.
Well, there were players.
And he dominated when he came up.
They were very. What Branch Rickey needed a player, like he famously said, somebody that won't fight back. He had been an officer in the United States Army during World War II and had suffered discrimination.
That's tough.
And he was one of the few officers. Until World War II, there were no black officers. And the Navy was supposed to have black officers and never went through with it. So
they picked him on character.
there was a black Babe Ruth. Josh Gibson was a great catcher. Who
He used to smash the ball. Right?
Oh, he was
800
he was
home runs.
tremendous, but he was in his mid-30s, and he had problems with substance abuse, and that we find out much later from suffering from that. In fact, the play Fences is based on a character about him, and I think they made a movie a few years ago, and August Wilson's play Fences.
You talk about Fences with Denzel Washington?
Yeah, that was originally.
That was him?
Yeah, that's based on Josh Gibson, but
It is?
James Earl Jones originally played it on Broadway. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because in the movie they seemed well known. He seemed well known, but he didn't seem legendary.
Well, he was only to black players. But of course, players like, hey, Peter, I was reading about, we had just had Ted Williams in 1966, the greatest hitter of his time, and, made the first plea that Negro League players be in the Major League Hall of Fame, because they knew how great these players were, like Satchel Paige. He actually mentions Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige.
How'd that go over?
If you listen to it, nobody says anything.
Not
There's
very, yeah.
Crickets.
Yeah,
Crickets.
right.
I think
Good for him.
Didn't Williams actually face Satchel Paige in some sort of exhibition game or something?
Well, he faced him in 1948 because Satchel Paige, Bill Veeck brought him up, remember? They were in the 48 World Series, him and Larry Doby.
Oh, that's right. Well, I remember, Doby came up. Of course, Satch was, in 1948, I'm not sure how old he was.
Nobody knew how old he was. He played
I
for
also
him.
remember in 1965, Satchel Paige made his last major league appearance, and I think he was close to 60 years old at that point.
Yeah, Charlie
He
O.
pitched for an inning against the Red Sox in a game in 1965 for the Kansas City A's. And
Charlie Finley.
That's right.
He was the Rookie of the Year, wasn't he, at 48?
He wasn't Satchel Paige.
They thought he was 40. Nobody knew how old he was.
He was old though when he won Rookie of the Year, right?
Yeah, and he was he was considered you can never tell. That's the great tragedy because he never got to compete. But everybody said this is because they barnstormed with each other that this was the greatest pitcher many people had faced. The names that come up with him are like Bob Feller, who used to barnstorm with him, Rapid Robert.
He had a fastball.
And and great Sandy Koufax. But the guy was great. Woody Allen named his son, who turned against him fabulously. Ronan Farrow's real name is Satchel. He had to change it because Woody was a big baseball fan. They loved Satchel Paige because he's a great character. Great character. What's his famous saying, Peter? Don't look back.
Don't look behind you. Somebody might be gaining on you.
Yeah, don't look back. Somebody might be gaining on you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, somebody.
He's almost 50 years old. He's a rookie in the World Series.
From what I saw, he was a really stubborn, resilient player. Like,
Yeah.
didn't he go all 9 in an All-Star game against like the exhibition game? They used to have exhibition games.
Oh, yeah, they used to.
Didn't he just like take down like all the best of the major leagues in one game?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, there were all the stories about
he was
that.
like
And-
94 years old.
No, they're talking about he came up in the 20s, and he was
crazy.
the great star of the Negro League.
What made him great? Was it location,
They s- it was
velocity?
control.
Is control, right?
They said he had tremendous
So
control.
he could just hit a spot.
Oh yeah, he
Yeah.
could put the ball anywhere.
And he could
was like a
probably
Roger Clemens, young Roger Clemens had the
Probably
control
mess
and the
with someone's
speed.
head too, I assume.
Oh yeah,
Change
because
outs
you know,
at the right spot, yeah.
yeah, there were all sorts of legends about.
That's
him.
what Koufax did, right? Control, right? He wasn't he wasn't like a speedballer, right?
Oh, he had a tremendous fastball, but
Well,
he had a
he had
curve
velocity.
He did.
and
that's what-
You know,
control.
and I think Page did too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And Page had a lot of stuff, right? I mean,
He had
was-
many pitches.
He had like, you know, all sorts of breaking pitches too, and then he, you know, mix in a plus fastball.
Right.
Yeah. And but most of it was few people saw it. You know, it's kind of sad, but yeah.
But
that's
people-
what we're dealing with.
But all the great all the baseball players knew the quality of these people because they played against them. They barnstormed with them.
People compared him to Pedro Martinez in his prime,
Which was you know,
so like
right.
that. Pedro could
Koufax,
hit. Pedro
yeah.
get you at 94 when he musters down,
Yeah.
and that'll surprise you. But he wasn't that. 94 is still fast, but I'm sure it's well placed. you know.
But what's the difference between a major league player? Of course, you got to hit a fastball, and you've seen how, like Peter, we used to go to the batting cage. He could hit stuff much faster than I could, and but it's hitting breaking balls. If you can't, a lot of great
yeah.
minor league players can't handle a major league. You know.
Pedro's golden goose was his changeup.
And Pete Rose said, well, Pete Rose said about Sandy Koufax, he had a curveball that would come at you. You think it's a fastball, and then it would break. He'd just fall off, like falling off the table. But these guys were great, but they never had a chance. The thing is, you know, people like Jackie Robinson, Larry Doby, they were all in World War II. They served. And yet you had a one-armed outfielder. Didn't he play for Cleveland, Pete Gray? A one-armed
Pete
out
Gray.
rather than a left
one
Josh
arm,
Gibson
and,
come out.
Yeah.
And let Josh
show you
Gibson
how
come
much
out.
they want to avoid putting black players in because they used a guy with one arm. But
Brendan, can we go to a
He must have been
three
decent.
ways? All of us, yeah.
Was he any good?
No, he hit like 240.
oh, Pete Gray?
He hit
Did he hit a
240.
home run once? No.
Jesus. So the minor leagues are out. I mean, these were clear minor league players they brought up because the people, you know, the major leaguers got drafted or joined. And, you know, Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio, all
Take
the
the
great
one-arm
players.
guy.
We'll take instead of a great black player.
Yeah.
Because Kennesaw Mountain Landis, the commissioner, was an out-and-out racist from Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Georgia,
Yeah, his name is coming off the what is it? The MVP trophy.
yeah, it's about time.
Yeah,
Really?
That's the latest thing. Yeah, they want Landis gone.
Well,
Which makes sense, you know.
I mean, the guy was a vicious bigot. You know, he stopped integration. You know, they say the Bill Veeck story about Bill Veeck wanted to buy a team and then stock it with Negro League players. That is a confabulation and just a good yarn, and he loved to tell good yarns. But because the sheer fact was, as long as he was alive, it could never happen, you know?
A good yarn. Is that like a fishtail?
Oh yeah, that baseball. You know, they didn't have statistics until 1969. The baseball encyclopedia.
That's why you really never know how old Satchel Paige was.
No, nobody really does. I guess they do now, but it's a tragedy.
Yeah, I think somebody has tried to compile statistics from the Negro Leagues, but it's an exercise in frustration. But, you know, I think that there is out there somewhere like something resembling a Negro Leagues, you know, baseball encyclopedia. But whether the data is very trustworthy is another thing altogether. You know?
Right, because it has to be taken out of newspapers.
So I got a question for you guys.
Published for the what was called at the time Negro or colored press.
What were the noticeable, like, glaring differences between the Negro Leagues and the major leagues at the time? Speed and power?
Not power, speed.
And ferocity, like?
Well, the type of play that the National League excelled at, because it had more African Americans.
But
well
speed
into
for sure.
Well into the 90s. That type of National League play, where it's like almost a chess game, rather than which Casey Stengel created. You know, you get two men on and some stud just hits a 3-run homer, which became the American League style play, the Yankees type of play.
Well, that's the game.
Yeah, never give away outs. That's Earl Weaver's thing. But yeah, the National League, and even before the designated hitter, the National League was known more for, you know, moving guys over, you know, playing a couple of runs here, a couple of runs there. Whereas the American League was always the big inning league. With the philosophy was that in most games, like 80% of games, the winning team scores more runs in one inning than the losing team scores in 9. So it was just a different philosophy, but
That's interesting.
Our National League was utilized a lot of that speed much more than the American League did.
Right.
That's gone now, you know.
Right up until the PEDs, steroids thing.
They got rid of the DH.
We were talking about
they got rid of the pitcher hitting this year to limit.
Yeah. Ty Cobb.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, we'll talk about that in the second half hour. We want to go to that.
Oh,
Ty Cobb, stole bases. He hit. He could hit for power, but he didn't. And he ran.
Too.
Oh, yeah. And he ran. So, but Babe Ruth said, he always said he was influenced by Shoeless Joe Jackson, had his swing. He added an uppercut to it. And the power he had, that revolutionized baseball, and he became the greatest player
Babe Ruth did,
in history,
the
ever.
uppercut, you mean?
Yeah, and the power he had was tremendous. And it was soon imitated by other players, although
Judge
not
is
all of
doing
them
that now.
before Peds could do it as long as he did it. But Jimmy Fox, Chuck Klein hit 370 with 40. Once you added the uppercut, but that became like an American League type of. And the Yankees, that's what they had, that power.
Had a heavy bat too, right, Babe?
Oh, yeah.
Like a 50?
No, I think it was 40.
Oh, it was,
Above
it's
40.
That's
it was crazy, like how big these bats were,
You ever felt a bat like that?
I could barely pick them up, And it's funny because the power guys today, they hit these bats like that.
Whip.
Tony Gwynn used to use,
Yeah.
But a different era.
But, in the old, before the lively ball, every team in the major leagues, which were all white up until the Babe Ruth, the 20s, what I'm saying, not Babe Ruth, up until 1947, you had to scrap for runs. You had to manufacture them. And so in my lifetime, up until Peds, like Peter and I both lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, you could have both brands of baseball, the National League baseball with all the speed and the daring and more strategy like a chess game.
Big
and
fields.
then the, get the two guys on and get a stud.
That was like the
up
80s.
there.
They did that cookie cutter stadium thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But back in the day, they had
yeah.
450-foot fences.
Jeez.
Crazy. Like Polo Grounds was like so
500
long.
some odd feet to dead. And Babe Ruth would hit home runs.
He'd still
out
knock
there.
him out.
Yeah.
And the National League stadiums, too, like from the 60s to the 90s, they had
All
a
cookie
lot
cutter.
more AstroTurf than the American League stadiums did. The American League was mostly natural grass for, most of its, history, in that era.
That's
and
true.
the National League, there was a lot of it. There was a majority, I think, AstroTurf stadiums, and that affected, type of play. And
hit the ball. You just hit the ball down. That Charlie
Cincinnati, Atlanta.
Right. That was all.
Houston, they all did that.
They're all based on Busch Stadium, which I think opened in '64 for the Cardinals. The classic confrontation between the two styles of baseball is the '64 World Series, where the last of the great Yankees dynasty, the one with Mickey Mantle and Maris and Whitey Ford and Yogi Berra, got beat by an exciting Cardinals team that was integrated. They had many black players. Where there was in 1964, I think they had Elston Howard, who was an MVP in '63, first black Yankee, and they had one or two others. I see their faces and the names, but I'm an old fart.
In the movie Bronx Tale, that was a part of that movie.
Elston Howard was the first black Yankee.
Yeah, in '55, because you have to. Tom Yawkey, and they took away Yawkey Way, Jersey City, because of his racism. Tom Yawkey had a minor league team in Birmingham, and Willie Mays is from Birmingham and was on the Negro League team. So he had the rights to Willie Mays. They never signed him. The scout would call Boston, and nope, nobody wanted to hear about him. But the Yankees turned him down, too. The idea of Willie Mays playing at Fenway Park with Ted Williams, he hit 660 home runs. He did 2 years in the service, Willie Mays. He would have broken Babe's record, if he didn't get something bad happened. Because with Red Sox in that time, bad things would happen.
What was the gap? You think he would have had 100 home runs in 2 years?
No, he hit 660, so 55 would have done it. He came up, I think he did the Korean War, 52, 53.
That's what Ted did too, right?
Well, Ted lost 5 years. Korea and World War II.
49, was it?
Ted was the man.
Ted came up in 39. He was in the service, 43, 44, 45, and then in Korea, both the 51, 52, 53.
Out of control.
What?
Imagine being a fighter pilot and a hitter. His hand-eye coordination.
Oh, it's tremendous.
Then he went on to be a world-class fly fisherman.
Oh, yeah. So you know your baseball.
I know my baseball. And then, his hand-eye coordination, he could just do it. He could do it.
When they made him an instructor during World War II, they said he had the best eye-hand coordination they'd ever seen.
Well, to be a fighter pilot, you got to be pretty decent, right?
When I was young, I had 15-20, which is better than 20-20. Ted had 10-20.
I wonder if his service had something to do or influenced his stance on getting the Negro League into the round.
Could have, yeah.
Being, intertwined with, everybody.
Yeah. Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis, who's named after Kennesaw Mountain, Georgian, a great rebel. He died in '44, and Happy Chandler, the governor and a Democratic hack politician, was made the commissioner. And he said these men served in World War II. He would not oppose integration, and he allowed it because they certainly the teams didn't want it.
A lot of pride in America back then, huh? To go play baseball and then bounce out in the middle of your career and be a fighter pilot and then come back
Joe DiMaggio
was he drafted?
No, I think
he went on his own merit.
He joined. But when we were kids, Peter and I was born in '59. Peter was born around then. We would see players I remember Carlton Fisk came to West High School. He was in his military uniform because you could get drafted and you do 2 years. Yeah,
didn't he play at Hooksett or North Little League or something?
Carlton Fisk played basketball at UNH.
Yeah, supposedly Balboni hit one off the JFK.
Did he go to UNH?
Yeah, Pudge went to UNH, and he was an outstanding basketball player. He and Sandy Koufax had that in common. Koufax was a great basketball player at the University of Cincinnati.
Now, was Fisk that good?
Yeah.
I picture him as Jake Taylor from Major League. The broken down knees guy.
Oh no,
but he was good.
He was a brilliant quarterback.
He was great.
Brilliant quarterback. He could handle pitching stuff.
Now,
he had brains.
Do you think Veritek was a better captain, or Fisk blew him out of the water?
We're talking about.
No, I mean Veritek was he was an excellent player, but I think Fisk all around just did more, you know. Just
he's
like
a Hall of Fame.
Veritek was my era.
At least as good as defensive catcher,
I hold him on a pedestal.
But yeah, Veritek did have some great leadership qualities, you know.
The greatest catcher of that time was Johnny Bench, who could hit and catch, a great catcher. But the great rivalry was Fisk and Thurman Munson, who won the MVP.
Yankees, right?
Yeah.
Munson, yeah.
And the catchers, though, wore down so quickly in those days.
Can you imagine?
It wore. They'd play. Johnny Bench regularly played 160 games, where Casey Stengel would never, you know, about 125 games he'd put Yogi in, and they'd put him 25 or 30 games in left field. Because it just wears you out.
Yeah, it wasn't until like the 80s even where, you know, teams would regularly use like two catchers, and the second string catcher would play more than 40 games, or at least 40 games. But yeah, it was just like there was like they used catchers like they use flipping shortstops, you know. Hey, you're expected to play 160, you know.
You're our catcher this year, so.
Well, the gerbil he kept putting Carlton Fisk out there and wore him out in '78.
Gerbil?
Tell him who the gerbil is.
I thought we were talking about baseball today.
Oh, do you have anything to say about Eddie Casco, who recently died, the manager of the Red Sox, who blew at least 2 pennants I can think of?
Yeah, that was. I communicated that with you as my dad during the day. My dad was like the ultimate Red Sox fan.
Well, he's at the
just like right after they had Dick Williams, who was probably among the greatest managers that they've ever had. You know, they brought in this completely feckless Eddie Casco, who couldn't manage a Dairy Queen, as they say. And,
the Red Sox were awful.
The Sox had some really good teams in the early '70s, and Casco would always find a way to blow it like late in the year. It was,
74.
It was infuriating.
Yeah.
Do you guys blame Jimmy Williams for not taking Pedro out?
Let's not talk about that.
Well,
I was with Vika. I was with when that happened. We were in Pebble Beach.
You get so worked up.
That was Grady Little. That wasn't Jimmy Williams.
She's wondering why I'm going crazy.
It's just a baseball game, John.
The whole little did she know the next 17 years,
Yeah.
Be
He got canned for that. I mean, Grady Little took over, and
it was Grady Little that got canned.
No, it was Grady that did it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So
Jimmy Williams was never even got into the playoffs or something.
Jimmy would bench Pedro for being 5 minutes late. Yimmy, very stubborn, he'd say.
He was part of Bobby Cox's,
I can see that.
Crew.
Cut from the same cloth, for sure.
But it's apparent now that the reason the Red Sox from 1918 to 2004 didn't win a World Series wasn't the curse of Bambino. It was the curse of racism. When you don't pick somebody up like Willie Mays, one of the greatest living player, when you trade away Cecil Cooper because the hostility because he had an integrated marriage, otherwise a white wife, and Ben Ogilvy too. But it was just crazy. Do you know that Jim Rice, when he was arguably the best hitter in the American League, and what was
Rookie of the year and MVP,
we're talking about 82, 83. There were no other blacks on the team.
That's tough. Living in Boston,
crazy.
and he's outspoken about the way Boston was in the 80s too. And you know what? Go ahead, talk about it, because it's probably true. You show videos of these people, they got their windbreakers on and their mustaches, and they're just, they got their Miller Lite in one hand. I imagine winning Rookie of the Year and MVP, right?
No, that was Fred Lynn, but Jim Rice.
Jim Rice in 1978 had one of the all-time greatest
ever
seasons ever.
Yeah.
Now, didn't he win MVP, but not Rookie of the Year?
No.
Which is a weird thing.
The Gold Dust twins were Freddie Lynn, who was born in 51, and Jim Rice, who was born in 53, so he's only 22. They came up in 75. They both hit over 300. They both had 20-plus home runs, and they both had 100 RBI. But Jim Rice broke his arm at the end of the season, so he wasn't in the World Series.
He wasn't in that World Series, That's the all-time great excuse for the Sox that, they didn't win that World Series was, geez, it would have been nice to have like somebody like Jim Rice in the lineup,
That happens all the time.
Freddie Lynn was a great player, and it's, I think he deserved
Great
the
outfielder.
awards he got, but, Rice was right there with him, too. And,
But for Freddie, he would have won the Rookie of the Year. But Freddie hit .331 and was flawless in outfield. He was one of the best fielding outfielders since Joe DiMaggio.
Kind of like a Pedroia who had his flash. He won Rookie of the Year and then MVP the next year, but then he fell off. Didn't Lynn kind of have his 4-year stint?
I think Pedroia was a better team player.
Oh yeah,
Freddie was kind of out
yeah,
there.
Freddie Lynn had a lot of California flake in him, but he was in his prime. He was a great player, and his numbers at the end of his career were nowhere near I thought they were going to be when he first started. I thought he was going to be like a flipping 500 home run guy. Really, he looked like he was going to be an all-time great player. Years. What did you say, Hop?
Yeah. If you take Fred Lynn up to you take his first half of the career and you graft it onto Dwight Evanson's half of the career, and you have a first ballot Hall of Famer. But
that's right.
But now that Chet Lemon has changed everything for the Hall of Fame, right, Peter?
Do you remember Ellis Burks and Benzinger?
Oh yeah.
Those two rookies coming up together. It's probably similar to the racing.
Although Chet Lemon was probably a better player.
Oh yeah, excuse me, it was Harold Baines. Chet Lemon was a better player.
Chet Lemon.
I remember it's like, why isn't Chet in? But for him. But one of the ways to get into the Hall of Fame is have a lot of friends on the Veterans Committee, which is what happened with Harold Baines.
There were milestones at the time, benchmarks where as long as you got that 3,000 hit, you were in.
That's crazy. Tommy John was a better pitcher than Don Sutton. Don Sutton never won 20. You can go back to the 1960s and you read about him. Is he going to win 20? He's going to win 20. Is he going to win 20? But he just hung on, and he won 320 some
longevity guys.
But she's not Tommy John.
He wasn't never one of the top half dozen pitchers
at any time
in any one of his careers.
He was a quality number 3.
300 wins though.
Yeah, but Tommy John won 288. Jim Koch should be in the Hall of Fame, 285. He had to play with Minnesota.
Is Tommy John not in the Hall of Fame?
No.
What?
No.
That's baloney.
Yeah, that's a whole other show.
It took a few ballots for Burt Blyleven to get in the Hall of Fame, and he should have been maybe not a first ballot guy, but his strikeout numbers, his shutouts, it was ridiculous. And it's all because he didn't quite have 300 wins, and it's these magic numbers are kind of ridiculous. But that's what happens.
Remember Chris Berman's nickname for him? Burt be home by 11.
So many other things.
Well, why don't we got another 15 minutes. Why don't we talk, Peter, what do we talk about baseball in the COVID era? What do you guys think is going to happen? Do you think baseball is going to be able to pull this off?
I don't know.
It's anybody's guess.
They won't finish the season.
I'm hoping. One thing that's really looking like it's going to work against it is, 30 different stadiums they're playing in and across the nation. And that has got to be a concern because, you look at what the NHL and the NBA are doing, and, I of course, that their seasons were almost over anyway, so I guess that enters into it. But, maybe baseball would have been better served by, picking out a couple of markets and having, the American League teams playing that and the National League teams playing the other one. I don't know. I'm hopeful, but I'm not too sure either.
I got a dark horse answer. The reason this will not happen is because pitchers aren't allowed to spit or go to their mouth. Name a pitcher that doesn't lick their fingers every single pitch. They were in Walker Buehler from the Los Angeles Dodgers did an interview, and I watched him on this guy Theo Vaughn I watched, and he was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. They say I can't go to the mouth, and they'll fine you, but he's like, I'm still going to do it. because you go your whole life, your instinct. Baseball players spit.
Maybe they could put
They
a
spit.
collar like you put on a dog.
What are you not allowed to turn two? Too many people touching the ball. You know what I mean? Like, what are they gonna do? Incinerate the balls afterwards? After a double play?
Baseball games, if it weren't for like spitting and like ass whacking,
Yeah, grabbing
it'd
your
last
nuts.
20 minutes.
Can you grab your nuts?
I don't know. Hey, now talk about basketball. They're playing in like what you call a bubble.
Yeah, they've got it set up. It's in Florida, Orlando, at Walt Disney Universe or whatever it is, and so
Because you only need courts.
Orlando, Florida, and that's we'll see. You know, I mean, they have issues too.
Yeah.
The NHL is
People are gonna lie about having their COVID
in
too.
Toronto and Edmonton. So at least they were smart to get out of the U.S. You know, they're getting as far away as they can possibly can. So they'll probably pull it off too.
Someone's gonna sneeze on the court and be like, "It's an allergies, I swear," and everyone's gonna be like, "I don't know about this anymore," because people are gonna lie. Because you get game checks, correct?
But they just
You get paid per game though, correct? Is that true?
is that it, Peter? I don't know, but it
I don't
depends on their
know.
contract.
I don't know. They're going to get tested. I don't know if it's every day or once every. There's a protocol where the players and everyone, the umpires, they're going to be tested every Lord knows what.
They could be cheating. They're gonna have fake boogers like they do in the
If you come out
steroids.
positive, they
Fake
send you
E.
home for like at least 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Hey man, can I get your boogers, dude? It's their livelihood. They're gonna have like fake boogers installed in their nose to pass the COVID test. That's what they do for steroid tests. They do an oil change, they call it.
Well, actually, in the steroids test, they were warned 3 weeks ahead of time they
Hey
were
man,
going to get
can you
them.
blow your nose in this tissue for me, man?
Well, they just had a thing with the lab. One of the labs or the
Talking
lab
hundreds of thousands of dollars though.
the baseball was using. It can't process them fast enough.
How can you have a 40-man roster and
60 man.
how they're making the pitchers sit in the stands? Did you know that? That's a fact.
What are they going to deal? They're going to sell the hot dogs?
Like Walker Buehler was
They're
saying.
going to give them pom-poms and have them lead cheers.
They might have fights out there that might be very dangerous.
They're actually the starters aren't required to be there. Like
Well,
Clayton
that never
Kershaw-
made sense that they
Clayton
are
Kershaw
there.
said he's gonna watch 80% of the games from his pool. Literally said that.
Why not? I don't see why they're there anyway. But
You know he makes $80,000 a pitch.
here's the thing. Some guys are opting out. Even Trout's thinking of opting out. But you have to be designated that you are an at-risk person in order to keep your pro rata share of your contract this year.
Or if you're up for negotiation next year, or
Yeah.
like Walker Buehler again. I hate to keep referencing it.
Oh.
They call it a platform year. He's in his last year of a rookie
Right.
deal. He can't sit out. He has to play.
Right.
If he
What good is it,
He's,
it's
I know.
such a weird...
And what are you going to do? The arbitration is going to go, oh, he did good, but he couldn't sustain it a whole year. Or if you do poorly, well, look, you did poorly. It's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? You have to play.
I mean, look at Mookie. He's like kind of in that situation. Too,
Yeah,
although,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think that if he hits like 240 over 60 games, he's going to get penalized too much. But hey, it's
What?
the revenues are like they're not going to be there either. There's only going to be so much that can be spent on whoever's going to be a free agent this winter.
I was good for 10 beers a game minimum.
It's
$80
not a good situation to be going into your walk here. That's for sure.
But what is all this time off and not really playing, and then playing this extended spring training in a way, how is that going to affect players? Because this is, like, as everybody says, and it's never contradicted, this sport of, not of inches, but of millimeters, and it's a skill sport that supposedly has more skill than any other. And you've seen people that have had, injuries or something that have been off for a year. Sometimes they just don't come back.
I think people are getting used to the world without sports. It's like when
That's
it's like when your
interesting.
girlfriend breaks up with you and you're heartbroken, and then after 6-7 weeks you're like over it. It's like I could live without sports now because I am.
You're not watching Korean baseball?
Oh, God.
No, I'm living without it right now, and I'm
going
tired.
to gorge on lacrosse next week.
Do you know what this is doing to
I
the
need
media?
something. I'm just like, I haven't gotten used to it. We'll put it that way.
Dude, if you watch the hot dog competition, you can hear every sound.
Well, we'll get Easy G in that.
I did draw the line at the hot dog competition. I just I just felt myself getting colon malignancies. The only time I ever watched that. So but yeah, I'm ready for anything. The sooner the better.
It's strange because baseball got the country through World War II, even with third-rate major league players and one-armed outfielders. And
Abbott did it.
Here you have this pandemic, mass malaise. It seems like baseball could have done a much better job of organizing that. And I know, they have batteries of lawyers, there's all sorts of contracts, television, then there's the insurance companies, there's reinsurance companies. I mean, we're talking about billions and billions of dollars in revenue. But
I think the owners are going to take a hit.
This isn't even a half-assed. Their attempt to give us a season wasn't even
But by
half-assed.
playing the
It's
season,
quarter-assed.
the owners get to keep the price tag on their franchise. You know what I mean?
3.2
That's why they're taking a hit.
Yeah.
You know what Trevor Bauer said?
Because
What?
it's always
He was
silly.
like, geez, we took a situation that was incredibly horrible and somehow managed to make it 10 times worse.
I can't. It's I know what's going on, but jeez,
You think anyone's going to wear a mask in the game? Ooh.
Can they?
I
don't know. Watch that.
That would help. That wouldn't be. I couldn't.
Talk about a statement.
How can you play a sport with a mask on?
I don't know.
Here, let's try to do the show with masks.
All right, I'll hit some fungos to you.
I mean, how can you wear a mask in that type of weather?
I mean, catchers do it.
Summer. Yeah, but they're not wearing one of these. Is this the right way? That's
Oh my
brilliant.
God, this guy. You're one of the guy that wears it on your chin just to not get shamed in public, aren't you?
No, just to hide my chin, my double, triple chin.
You should wear a catcher's mask
do you
everywhere.
think it's worthwhile at all to try
Matt?
to make any sort of predictions about this thing, or is it just beyond the scope of logical analysis?
Everybody will die.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's my.
You heard it here, everybody.
Prediction: the champion will be
Pain. I predict
mortality. But
Somehow I think
don't
that
know. It's probably not even worth making any predictions. I mean, who knows?
I have one.
Royals.
Somehow, of all the sports, baseball will screw it up.
I got Colonel Mustard in the library with the wrench.
I have Colonel Mustard, on a squeeze play.
Yeah.
You might as well just go
Yeah.
there.
Who is the best? I don't know, because it's a sprint, right? Then you've got the regular playoffs.
Yankees, Astros, and Red
Yankees
Sox
are considered the
top.
favorite right now.
They always are. Red Sox are always there.
What about the
In American
Dodgers?
League, yeah, I mean,
Dodgers.
it's everyone's saying Yankees, Dodgers, but
Right.
the Rays are getting a lot of love. But it's who the hell knows?
Oh, with all the cheating now, you never know. There could be.
We could bring back Eddie Casco.
There could be, faking people infecting people under the table, like stealing signs and infecting people, like throwing their snot rock,
That'll be the next scandal.
Putting
the
boogers in the
Astros
rosin
are
bag.
like pumping infected air into the opposing team's locker rooms.
You can only touch the rosin bag 4 times.
Hey, I don't know why they just don't go to CGI and just create a system.
Yeah, just
Because
play it.
40% of all Americans believe Donald Trump. Sports people are probably, even more gullible in some ways in their favorite sport. So, you just CGI the whole season. I don't know why,
One
Disney
team-
didn't step in.
One team that won't be affected is Tampa
Just like
Bay.
they did the moon landing.
They had 400
Stanley
people a game.
Kubrick, where are you when we need you?
Tampa Bay will have more fans this year than they did last year.
Even with, but they're only allowed to have a certain amount of people in the stadium, right?
They
Can they sit
distance
next
for
to
4
each
years
other?
now. They've been doing that. The Marlins have been social distancing for 5 years now.
My sister always said she liked the Tampa Bay. She used to go down there for business.
Did
you
you
get
know-
you can get a cheap ticket and a great seat because there's nobody
You
in
can
there.
pay $100 and have a cardboard cutout of you put in the stands. That is a fact.
Oh, come on.
In LA,
The
at
Marlins
least.
are going to have cardboard cutouts of Pamela Anderson and everything.
See, I want to get one of Hopwood in a non-flattering picture.
Jeez.
Back in his San
just
Francisco days.
go through the shows and you can find you just screenshot.
What was he like in the San Francisco days? That's what I want to know.
We actually did,
Free love, man.
we didn't live in San Francisco. We lived in where did we work? Foster City. Yeah. We lived next
Everything's up
to.
to date at Foster City.
We worked.
Yeah, I can see who
crazy,
in the
you
Giants put their cardboard cutouts on, like the Village people.
I want to put Ruby Keeler's cardboard cutouts. Didn't we watch that show? With her head bouncing up and down on a spring, or was that my college days? It all bleeds into each other.
Oh, yeah, Footlight Parade.
Oh, that's her. Yeah, that Jimmy Cagney.
Find love, an optical illusion too. Are the stars out tonight? I don't know if it's cloudy or bright, 'cause I only have eyes for you, dear. The moon may be high, but I can't see a thing in the sky, 'cause I only have eyes for you. I don't know if we're in a garden or on a crowded avenue. You are here, so am I. Maybe millions of people go by, but they all disappear from view. And I only have eyes for you.
Gee, Jimmy, that's swell.
Bay Area was great back then. Nowadays,
Who would your cutout be if you had to get one cutout?
you
If
mean?
you could pick one person to be in Fenway for the whole season, you get a
Oh, I was
seat.
thinking of being with me, like on the
You
show.
put yourself
I guess
on?
it'd be a young Julie Christie.
A Julie Christie. Okay. I do Elf.
Well, yeah, that's, the Hopwood's right on. It's just like my personal feeling is in the history of cinema, if you had to pick one movie that had the most beautiful woman in it at all time, I'm going to say Julie Christie and Petulia.
He's going to do his beautiful jackknife dive that he won at the Cannes Olympics. The second prize, they gave him the dive. All the surfboard riders, just the agile, flexible, courageous, brave penguins. We've got 4. We're going for 5. Okay, turn it around. Wait a minute, we got a 5th. I think. Yes, all right. And
Oh, geez.
It's always a young
Cardboard
Julie.
cutouts of her in every scene.
Not
Well,
a
she's 80
70-year-old.
years old.
Yeah, not a Twilight.
What is the baseball Julie Christie connection? I will give a 2020 Trump bill. to
She
anybody who
was
can get it.
banging Lou Gehrig.
Ooh, Carrick
I
died
don't know. Guess.
died the year she was born.
I don't know who she is.
She shares a base. I'll give you a clue. She shares a birthday with the greatest player not in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, don't just give it away. Oh, Pete Rose's birthday?
She shares a birthday with the greatest player not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he already got the. I guess they threw that.
You're talking about
title
Tommy John, right?
away. We're talking Pete Rose. Both born on April 14th, 1941. So she'll be 80. So yeah, I'm thinking more of the Julie Christie around
So
24 years old.
young Pete Rose.
Hey, I had Julie on one of my intros. I'll have to send it to you. The one with the guy pooping and the guy with the guy pooping.
She was looking unbelievably gorgeous.
I gotta see it. Can you pull a picture up?
What does this have to do with baseball?
If anyone in our viewing audience has never seen the movie Petulia, by all means, give it a look.
Are you coming on next week?
She was hot.
We can talk of Petulia.
I'll let John tell you. You know.
Richard Lester.
Put it this way, John can't stand up right now.
He can probably come on next week.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know Gonzo was a real baseball nut. That's great.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
I played for Central, post 79. I did the whole thing.
Oh, I love baseball. I know we're going to get, everybody that's bitching about it now is going to get into it.
There's no Legion baseball anymore. That sucks.
Well, I'll tell you, man.
Should have been 81
I didn't
games.
think that I would give a...
Rats behind.
A Rats behind, about like, as soon as they announced it, it's just like, all right, I'm on board,
It's always that way. We're Red Sox fans that go back to 1967.
I'll tell you who's happy is DraftKings. They're like, damn.
We'll do that next week.
They're probably responsible for this all happening right now. Like finishing, sneaking a season in. Even 10 games will help.
Yeah,
out.
but you understand that
$1 billion.
Next week there'll be. When does it start, Peter? When does the season start?
The 23rd.
Oh. See, yeah, that's right.
Allegedly.
They haven't been doing anything.
It's still a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Until 30% of the league gets COVID.
It could happen. It could. What was the movie with John Waters?
And people are gonna get
lady. And what was the egg lady? What did she say, Peter?
There were chickens. There wouldn't be any eggs.
And what was the name of Divine's character? Babs. Babs. And Babs tells her, "Oh, mother, there'll always be chickens." And what does she say to that?
Babs, where do eggs come from?
From little chickens, Mama. They lay them and we eat them.
But suppose someday there weren't any chickens. Would that mean there wouldn't be any eggs?
Oh, I don't think you have to worry about that, Mama.
But is it true, Babs? If there weren't any chickens, there wouldn't be any eggs. Is that true?
I suppose so, Mama, but there will always be chickens. You can be sure of that.
But suppose someday it happens. Suppose someday there weren't any chickens. Oh, Babs, what could I possibly do?
Okay, what did you say before this? Because we want to get the this.
I want to see Julie Christie.
Yuri, there's an extraordinary girl at this party.
I know, I'm dancing with her.
You're keen tonight, Victor.
I like to win.
That's not what you said. And Brendan's talking on the phone, so we can't.
Was she more of like a bottom or like an upper? Like what was her?
You don't even know who Julie
or just a
Christie
beautiful
is?
face?
Remarkable face.
Or just
she was Lara and Dr. Shavali.
Sex appeal, cute.
Just from top to toe, it was just a thing of just luscious.
We won't tell him about Don't Look Now.
I can't hear what you're saying. I still can't hear.
What are you doing?
I'm having a bath.
Heard me that time.
Oh my God. Was she hotter than Jennifer Love Hewitt?
Jennifer Love Hewitt's a TV star.
Julie Christie. All right, Google Julie Christie.
Okay, we got a couple more minutes. Anything to say about about the baseball?
Wear your mask. You're killing Grandma.
Oh, Peter's a liberal. Peter's father's the one who coined the term "the impossible dream" for the '67 Red Sox.
What?
Yeah, he was at the Globe.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, he was at the Globe. Yeah, that's my dad's
67, right?
appointment with the legend there.
Although it wasn't possible because it didn't.
So suffice it to say, I grew up in a baseball
That's cool.
environment.
That is
Well,
cool.
it's Jocelyn's father had his thing with fame was being on the stage at the Hungry Eye with Fan Fox and Wilbur Mills, but that's another story.
Hungry Eye. You talking about the
Strip
sleazy
club.
stuff?
The third most powerful man in the world.
There's some baseball in there somewhere.
I saw David Ortiz drop $5,000 at Platinum Plus in Portland, Maine. That's basic.
On what?
Strippers.
That we're
He was
not
rehabbing.
we're not going down there. David Ortiz is going to be Edgar Martinez is in the Hall of Fame now, right?
Well, he had 3,000 hits.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather have
good.
seen Ortiz be the first.
Ortiz was nasty.
He was great.
So good.
Oh, I love David
Yeah,
Ortiz.
he's gotta be. Come on.
Kelly Ayotte's
wanna hear
favorite
it.
Red Sox player. Okay, we're gonna sign off. We gotta sign off, Peter, because we gotta scrub this
Well, real
place
quick,
down.
do you think Griffey should have got all the votes like he did?
We'll talk about that next week. We'll be here next week.
That's called a tease. That's called a tease.
You've been invited to be on the radio show.
Yeah, I'm going on
Cool.
Connor then. I'm gonna mix
Connor,
it up.
Right.
Paulie
We'll
C
vote.
in the house. Just kidding.
Jesus.
You just
None
stay
of
away
that.
from me. You just stay away from me.
Bye, folks. We'll see you next week. We'll do another
Wear your
baseball
mask. You're
show.
killing Grandma.
You are interrupting my flow of power. Every word I ever utter is to be taken as a direct royal proclamation or face death by the firing squad.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I'm your Royal Highness and I demand that you address me as such.
Yes, Your Royal Highness.
Listen carefully. Royal Proclamation number 1. You must always consider me your God.